We've recorded those views. In terms of student housing, did anyone want to raise any points about student housing? I mean, what we've got here is how can we ensure that student housing is of a high quality and meets the needs of students studying in Westminster, rather than being a market response to the stalling in the housing market and a means of bypassing affordable housing requirements? So there's quite a specific question, but there's a gentleman at the back with his hand up.
Yes, thank you. What other boroughs have done in relation to this is asked specifically for people bringing forward student accommodation developments, asked specifically for them to have a signed up blue chip university on board before they talk to the planners in the first place.
So you would support that as an approach? Okay. Yes. Were there any other views to do with student accommodation?
Well, I think there should be some sort of student accommodation, because in Sussex Gardens we get quite a few from the doctors, and at least they come and go. So therefore we're accommodating students at the same time as while they're learning, and they can stay near their job. And we do need students for the future. And that, as long as they're on the move when they pass their whatever.
The gentleman behind you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see why a developer would actually build student housing if there wasn't a demand for it from students who are, after all, a low-income group who needs affordable housing.
Yes. Okay. And the woman next to you.
I'd just like to say that in terms of the second part of the question, I don't agree with it in the fact that it could make these developments unviable, and essentially the developments for student housing are for a lower income group, essentially students. So if you're requiring, you'd essentially be requiring affordable housing for what is affordable housing, really.
So you're saying that the normal policy requirements that we would look at, such as the housing mix and parking, we would look at student accommodation schemes quite separately and individually as student accommodation schemes.
So they're on the move.
Yeah. The gentleman.
Yeah, this is a difficult balance, because someone like me who's championing a greater and greater number of social housing. But the reality is that we do have important facilities in our city. Imperial College is an obvious one. That's St Mary's Hospital. That's a growing facility, attracting more and more funding, a large number of research projects going on there. The reality is that kind of organisation is going to need some kind of accommodation for a level of student population.
Great. And the gentleman here at front?
This is a problem which many university towns have faced and are facing. And one of the issues that has particularly come to light is that an over-concentration of student accommodation is not good, because for a substantial part of the year, that accommodation is not taken up. So there are management issues and all sorts of other social issues involved.
Okay. So there's a gentleman at the back.
So I think that comes back to having a blue chip university with a proper management plan. Most blue chip universities will be using their summer vacations for conferencing activities.
That they can do if it's accommodation owned by the university.
Not necessarily. I disagree.
Well,
that depends on the nature of the agreement between the developer and the university.
I will quote the study on Sheffield University and the social.
We're not in Sheffield. I'm sorry.
That's right. We're in Westminster, and we want the highest standard.